All right, I want to do a quick overview and kind of a review on the Rode Video Micro. It's an awesome little mic, and I originally got it for the DJI Osmo. The DJI Osmo internal mic is terrible, and the mic that you can buy through the DJI store is also terrible. So this was kind of my solution or potential solution. It was to mount it on this, which I went over. This goes where the phone mounts on the Osmo. Mic goes down here. You can turn it whichever way you want. It was a decent solution. Now, it works great with the Osmo. It's a fine mic, but more and more I'm finding myself using my mic with DSLRs, and for that it's still a good option. I don't want to take away from it by any means. It certainly has advantages that other mics don't, but ultimately I do think that I'm going to return it and go with something else, and I kind of want to explain why. But first I kind of need to do the pros and cons of the Rode Video Micro. So some of the pros that I can think of are, one, its size. It's incredibly small and it doesn't stick out over your camera very much, which is nice. It's also in turn very lightweight, although most mics are pretty lightweight, so it doesn't add a lot to your rig. One thing that kind of goes both ways is that it doesn't require a battery. Now I'm going to get to the cons of this later, but there is something to be said for not having to rely on that and knowing that you're going to get better audio than the on-camera mic without the worry of having your batteries run out and ultimately having to revert to the on-camera mic. Another pro is, of course, it is better than the on-camera mic. It is certainly an upgrade. I don't want to take away from it there because it is a much better solution. Lastly, on the pro side is that it's really affordable. I think I paid $60 or $70 for it. It comes with the Dead Cat, Wind Muff, whatever, which is a pretty solid setup. So for that money, it's really hard to beat. Now, on the con side of it, there are some things that I don't like. Now, I mentioned that it doesn't use a battery, and that is a pro in some sense. But in the other sense, that means that it doesn't have very many controls. It doesn't actually even have a power on or off, and it also doesn't have any built-in preamps. Now, the downside with this is that we use DSLRs for almost all of our videos, and DSLR preamps, specifically Canon, I'm not super familiar with the Sony preamps, which I'm using right now, but the Canon preamps are terrible. And what this leads to is noise, and it's really frustrating to deal with in post. Now, what I've found with the Rode Video Micro is that usually it works very well. And like I said, again, it is certainly an upgrade to the on-camera mic. But there are points where I'm getting hissing and noise that I have to spend a lot of time filtering out in post, or just leave it there, or some of it is really not fixable with quick techniques, and that's all I'm looking to do ever. Another con to it is while I do feel like it's built pretty well, it probably doesn't feel as solid as some other mics. Now granted, like I said, it's a cheap mic and a good upgrade for that price, but I don't know how long it will last, especially in a run and gun scenario, being used off and on, every day. Traveling with it, you might want to upgrade to something better or a little more sturdy. Like I said, it's a great upgrade. I think it's well worth the money, but for me personally, coming from a background where I'm doing video work professionally, I want something that has that preamp. I want something that can cut out some of that hissing noise, and I want something that has a little more control on the mic, that I can dial down the settings on the DSLR and then raise the settings on the mic to really find a nice happy medium where I don't have to do a lot of post work to it. So ultimately, like I said, I'm gonna return it. That's not to say it's not a good option. It's a terrific option, and the size is unbeatable. I love that it's so small and compact. It makes it very easy to travel with, but ultimately I'm gonna go with something else, probably the Rode Video Mic Pro, just something that gives me a little more control. But if you don't need that, or you're just starting out, I would highly recommend going with the Rode Video Micro, because it is a great on-camera mic and certainly an upgrade to the DSLR. Just to show a quick example, this has been me talking with the Rode Video Micro, and I'm going to take it off real quick just to show you what it looks like with an on-camera mic. So first off, I apologize. Clearly, I'm in a different outfit. This is recorded at a different time. When I unplug the Rode Video Micro, it doesn't automatically revert to the onboard mic, and I wasn't aware of that with the Sony a7S II. So it just came up silent. I didn't realize that until I was putting the video together, so thus why we are filming at a different time. But this is the onboard mic. This is with the a7S II, like I mentioned, and you can clearly see that the Rode Video Micro is a better overall sound. So that's my quick review of the Rode Video Micro. Just to recap, overall, it's a great mic. I definitely recommend it. There was nothing that I strongly disliked. There were some areas where it could improve. The overall sound quality is pretty good, but there are some hissing noises, and most of that is because it's dealing with DSLR preamps. There's also no manual controls, although that's not super important. It is a nice feature to have. At $60, $70 on that cheaper end for a mic, it's a great upgrade, and I definitely recommend it. I think that there's certainly a place for this mic, especially with the DJI Osmo because of its size.